Justice now.
Well, hello, and welcome to another broadcast of Obstruction to Justice. I'm Ann Moles, and today we're just going to dive right in. You have seen this brother a few times on the broadcast, and we're going to just dive right in and welcome Brother Auka Elegba. Glad to have you, Brother Auka.
Oh, good evening. How you doing?
I am well. I am well. It's been good. It's been good. We're hanging in there and doing all of what we can do. And, really I think that's kind of what it's all about. What can we do to make it better for ourselves, huh? And the
Yes, ma'am.
group, the people that we are a part of. Hmm? And yeah, just to continue on in that conversation and what we had chatted on before, but you have some great updates and some information about uh, the some of the events and things that have been going on, things that you've been participating in. Would you like to go ahead and share that with us?
Well, this past Saturday, we had the presentation that was done um, by the Economic Development Commission that I chair, and the topic was pooling resources for Black economic development. And
Okay.
it was we had one of the founders of Us Lifting Us. Um, and you can find out more about Us Lifting Us by going to usliftingus.com and kind of give you insight of what they're doing as far as their collective work that they're doing in Georgia. And then of course, but it's actually a national organization. It's based in Georgia, but there's members throughout the country that's part of Us Lifting Us. So just the gist of it is just a continuation of what we do with the Economic Development Commission is to basically have what we call our financial literacy classes, where we try to allow our people to get understanding of groups that are doing things on our behalf, and how to get involved with them and so forth. So that's one of the things that I've been working on with the Economic Development Commission.
Okay. Yeah, us lifting us out here. Looks like I'm out here on the website. Us,
Mhm.
that's usliftingus.com. And yeah, super cool. Now, do you remember the person that did the presentation this
Yes,
past?
this is Baba Hakima. Hakima. That's Kamaya. I'm trying to pronounce that last name. Yes,
Okay.
he was the one that did the presentation. But um, and so this kind of give you insight of what we're doing on the basis is to try to find the models of groups that are actually doing things from a collective basis, because a lot of times what it is that it's challenging to finance some of the business ventures and so forth. So they are doing it by pooling their resources. So that's the whole thing, to say that we could do it from that collective standpoint, because sometimes when you do it as an individual, it's definitely harder. It's challenging because as we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about the challenges that Black businesses have as far as making sure that our people are spending money with us, because we have a disposable income of $1.2 trillion, but just retaining 2% is not going to cut it, and that's been a challenge for years. Dr. Claude Anderson talked about it in Black Labor, White Wealth, and then in Powernomics. Juwanza Kunjufu talked about it in Black Economics, and just like we were talking to before we came on, this brother here, Sean Rochester, he talks about it in the Black Tax. So
Okay.
we're seeing that this is still where we at, and we have to do a better job as far as redirecting our dollars.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Now, the presentation, is there anything in particular that Brother Baba spoke of that really stuck out with you? That sometimes it just kind of resonates, something that really within the presentation that some of it can be just information. Yes, we're talking about
Well,
coming
one,
together and all
well,
that, but
several things, but one in particular is the fact of the matter is that this group is looking to form businesses in other communities. They're based out the Atlanta, Georgia area, but they're looking to um, go into different areas because we know that when we look at like where I'm from, Lafayette, Louisiana, there's a lot of businesses that we don't have, so
mhm,
we have to have establish these businesses, and that's the other part of trying to redirect the 1.2 a better percentage of 1.2 trillion dollars is to make sure that we have those for them to
mhm.
participate in, and
Yeah.
so that was one. um the other one was the fact of the matter is that one thing that struck me is that this thing is to build what we call generational wealth,
Mhm.
and that's one of the things that we're challenged with is that uh, we're not passing on wealth. You can't you can't pass on income. You can pass on wealth. Income is getting a job. You can't pass a job on, but you could pass on wealth. So we trying to understand. Um, so that was one of the things that was stressed is to how do we go about generating wealth and having wealth for many generations and so forth.
Mhm. Now, when it comes to generating wealth, one of the books that I had read early on was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And Kiyosaki, I believe, is the author of that. But that was a big, huge book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that he had mentioned in Rich Dad, Poor Dad was that a home, not to consider a house or a purchase of a house, not to consider that an asset, but a liability. And, you know, that concept, he threw that out there and everything. And I understand it, and I understand how it could be considered a liability because you, of course, need to put money into maintaining the property or the home,
Mm-hmm.
paying taxes, things like that. I can see that. But I think that where he went with it was just unfortunate in that if anyone really paid much attention to it down the line, you want to accumulate or have some type of property that you can pass on
Right.
or be able to invest in. Now, yes, you're going to have a liability of maintenance and everything, but you're going to have to pay rent anyway. If you're not buying a home, then you're renting a home. And
Mm-hmm.
a home could be, wherever, condo, if you're not purchasing something, you're renting something. Now, one thing about this guy that wrote the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, is that he did a lot of investing in real estate and has made a great and had a great foundational business success that he's prospered by renting, right? So Why not? By renting property to others. So why
Right.
not put in a blurb or a book that, hey, your your home is a liability. Yes, it is, but you're going to have to pay that expense anyway, doing
Yes.
something, right?
Right.
So
And the thing
one thing,
about
uh-huh,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, no,
No,
go ahead. Go ahead.
so just this the thought on it home, having a home, what I
Mhm.
saw about having a home and even in being a certain age is that if you spend the time to purchase the home and to have the home, it becomes a property that you can sell because here in the greater Kansas City area in Jackson County, that home back in maybe in 2000 2001, you may have spent, it may have been worth, the property may have been worth maybe 125,000. Well, now that property, to buy that same home, you're looking at it being
Right.
225,000, right?
Right.
So that could have been a nice little nest egg if someone decides, okay, well, this home here, it's what it is. And, of course, property and trying to build homes, building a new home right now is just straight ridiculous because of the expense of the materials and things. So the home, purchasing a home that's already been well maintained as a first home wouldn't be a bad thing for a family to do. Well, that could have been something that if a person was looking to
Right.
retire and use that as wealth. That's wealth generating, right? At that point. So that's kind of
Yeah.
where I think that's an important thing to do is to have some type of property. If you can, young people, I know a lot of young people that now they're not African American young people. A lot of them are European American young people.
Mhm.
They still push their children, these young people, to purchase a home. They can say whatever they want to say on the newsreels that young people aren't buying homes or whatever, but if the home, if you have that, even if it is considered a liability, whatever, on the books, but you have that home, that purchasing power of what that home will be worth 15, 20 years, and then you can upgrade the home that and sell it and then buy a bigger or better home or whatever in a different neighborhood, things like that. I mean, that's just something, a way to generate wealth. And I think young people need to understand that
Right.
working and not getting in over your head and not being
Mhm.
able to afford the payment, right? The house payment. I'm not saying getting in over your head, but what about, are they looking at, or this could be something that we can look at even the more, the property. Property is big now. I mean, it's
Right.
always been big because people are, when you're losing your home, then you still have to go rent. you
Well,
know
well, here's the interesting point that I wanted to go back to something you had mentioned
mhm.
dealing with retirement. And it's interesting that you brought that up because what happens sometimes is that some people, if they have a big house and to make their retirement work, they downsize. And
Mhm.
and and that's a trend that I've seen because my brother was discussing this. My brother lives in the Dallas, Texas area, and he was telling me how some of the friends, that's what they were doing. They were downsizing, and then they would take that equity and put, that's part of their retirement plan, so
Right, right, but if you've
and and
never
they and now they invest in that, invest in that and other things.
mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So
But if you never had that mindset to own, right? You never
mhm,
had the mindset to um, work, build a business, if that's, something that's you are wanting to do and you can see where it grows, or funding the business to where you can funding the business by working the business, because I know couples, one works and funds and keeps things going while the other one runs the business. That's
mhm,
not an unreal thing to do. But to know that when you're working towards those goals, that you can work together, keep your job, right? And grow the business, but you'll always have the expense of needing somewhere to live is the point.
Yes.
So, don't be afraid of purchasing property,
Mm-hmm.
buying a home. There's there, even though the upkeep is there, if you're wise in what you're doing. And um, I even know of people that are purchasing houses or property and flipping them. That's something that's, if you're
Yes.
talented and can do,
Right.
taking that in, because you'll always have to have a place to stay. The
Right.
government isn't going to pay everybody's rent. It's going to be something that you'll have to do. So I'm just kind of really, that was a big deal back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, rich dad, poor dad. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand downsizing and taking that equity, but you had to be able to put something in it, is the
Right.
point, right? So in the way that the economy is going, I think that people are getting, it's pretty discouraging and disturbing out there, but the ways of life still go on. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're working to continue on with an idea, you're a young person getting started,
Right.
should I rent? Should I buy, a home? If you can, I would definitely buy the home and get started to get some equity into some property. And then from there, 10 years, 15 years, an asset that you have. It becomes something that you can bargain with and use to
Right. That's
grow it and get a better home, or sell and start a business or something, because renting is, it's necessary. And there's some of us that choose to rent because
well.
maybe.
Here's the thing, and I want to make sure we share this. Is that the challenge is that with us as people, a lot of us is those dynamics that a lot of us want to purchase a home,
Mhm.
and because of the way the lending practices are,
You're right. Mhm.
that becomes
Redlining.
that becomes a
Mhm.
problem. And I'm gonna share this story about a relative of mine. Um, she she couldn't understand why she qualified to purchase this SUV. This is back years and years
Mhm.
ago, but the SUV was the same price of the house that she was interested in buying in purchasing. But
Mhm.
she qualified for the SUV, but not for the house.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is that we have these dynamics that we're dealing with the redlining practices, and
Mhm.
that becomes that presents the challenges with that. And so what it does sometimes is that it becomes a kind of like a domino effect when so some people that may see someone that may have challenges uh getting purchasing a home, sometimes they don't even want to be bothered with that. They just
Mhm.
go into that vicious cycle of renting. That's just one part of it. It's not
Mhm.
all. That's not always the case, but we definitely have to see that
Mhm.
how that sets up a um, impedes
Domino
from
effect, and
doing it.
it
Mhm.
does impede people from being able to grow and have wealth. So we're talking about uh, economic development, so personal wealth. And here's the thing: redlining is redlining. You can't purchase a home beyond a certain red line in another community that's predominantly European American. Okay, so the home that you will be able to purchase is probably within the African American community, and we know in this book, definitely the Black Tax
Yeah.
and others outline
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
so eloquently, the issues of having being able to live in the even live in the African American community because you're taxed and overtaxed
Right.
based on what it is that you have to, your insurances are going to be higher. Um,
Mhm.
your taxes are going to be higher because even in Jackson County, that's even a bigger mess. But so the black tax is there within the black communities.
Mhm.
Now, where we're talking about uh, black economic development,
Mhm.
I just I want to make sure that we're what communities are we talking about developing black economic development? To me, there's all kinds of blight. Mhm. There's blight where they run from the inner city and then take the knowledge, the resources and move to the suburbs. So we're talking about integration or integrating a segregated community. You know what I'm saying? But one thing that we had also discussed before is that what about even though segregation was segregation, we still
Mhm.
had our knowledge base, we still had our economics within the African American community because of segregation.
Mhm.
And our community thrived even the more. But when we talked about desegregation, which is definitely important because we should be able to go anywhere in this country that we'd like to go, and of course, live anywhere we'd like. Okay, we should have that option because they have that option. A European American family can live anywhere in in any community that they want to live here in this country. So, of course, having the same opportunity as African Americans, we should have that. But in that, when we're talking about black economic development, we should be talking about also developing the inner city
Mhm.
opportunities and where there's crime, where
Mhm.
there's hopelessness, where there are gangs,
Right.
where there is blight, where the educated African American or anyone that, wants to leave does leave and then tries and works to segregate or go into other communities that are safer.
Mhm. And I'm glad you brought that point because that's one of the things that Dr. Claude Anderson talks about in Powernomics. When we talking about developing those areas that you're talking about that may be where the crime is high. Um, he talks about that we have to work in reducing crime to entice people, black people, to have businesses in those
Mhm.
areas and so forth. So he gives it a name. I forgot the name that he used
Mm.
in Powernomics, but it was kind of like a I'm trying to think of it was if it was called a safe. He gave it a name as far as like a term that he used for low crime, you know,
Okay.
and I can't remember the term offhand, but that was one of the things that he talked about that we have to do a better job to make sure that we could actually develop those businesses in those areas and stuff like that.
Okay,
Uh,
so here's the question.
mhm,
Yes, he's already brought it up uh in Black Power, white Black Labor, White Wealth. He's already brought that up. And yes, so the idea is to make the African American community safer,
mhm,
okay? And by making it safer, then here's black businesses. Uh, but the families are still there, is the point.
mhm.
So, does money make a community safer? What can make a community safer?
Well, it
Yeah.
takes a lot. I mean, there's a lot that has to go into that formula, and that formula that you talk about is, and one in particular, education is very important that we need to do, and education is more than just what we're talking about taking algebra and taking all the different
Hmm.
courses in school, but the education is in terms of educating our people to understand that uh, we need to be doing things to better the social economic conditions in our respective communities. That's the
Mm-hmm.
education that to understand that as we talked about, as you were alluding to earlier, is that it's not by accident that these communities are segregated. It was done. There was ways to make sure that it would happen. So recognizing that we are in that situation, then I like to reference this book, African Centered Consciousness versus the New World Order by Dr. Amos Wilson. What some of the things what he talked about in there. I want to just go ahead and quote this right real quick.
Okay.
Um, see where is it? I wanted to find. Okay, yeah. This is the part, and we always hear the term by many people talk about nation building.
Mm-hmm.
You heard that term before, and one of the things that Dr. Amos Wilson talked about, he say this is how it reads. It say many of the problems we suffer today are because we do not see ourselves as a nation. We complain about we are segregated from everybody else, about how we are not part of the mainstream, how we are not part of the economy, how we are shut out from the government and the political process. If we are not part of these things, and yet these things are what define a nation, then we are not part of the American nation. That nation is a white nation.
Mm.
We in effect a de facto nation, but we are afraid to recognize it. So
Mm-hmm.
we have those things, that those characteristics. That's what he's talking about. But the fact of the matter is that in these areas that you're talking about, is that it's a mindset that we should look at in terms of that we have to do for self,
Mm-hmm.
that we have to do those things that's necessary for us to operate in, and of course, like what you were talking about in terms of how this gets done. It's like I say, we recognize that um, one of the key things that we recognize is that we have a lot of self hatred that we need to get out of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. That self hatred is an impediment. It
Major.
and it's major, and presents the challenges because it finds itself in a way where just think about it like this, where there may be someone that may uh, have an idea of doing something, but then there's someone that comes out and start spreading gossip and all kinds of different things that undermines the efforts of that particular person. So, and we see this quite often, is that uh, we have to make sure that we understand that these things are going to happen. We had this stuff happen back in the 60s, where we had leaders and they spread things on them,
Mm-hmm.
and they try to undermine that movement. So these things are still present today, that we have people that are trying to work in our interests, but um, they're going through what we call a character assassination.
Mm.
So we have to be focused more so on the message that's coming from that person, the message and not the messenger. And
Mm-hmm.
when we get focused more on the message and understand if that person is talking about how we become more a self-determining people, and that in terms of those things like Dr. Claude Anderson talks about, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Juan Smith, you name it, all these things that they talk about, we should then understand that our purpose is to again um, uh, do for ourselves in terms of how we, because doing for ourselves is going to actually um, entails us doing it for future generations, because
Mhm.
the work that we do today is for the future. So you have to be thinking of how those efforts going to impact the future, because that's what a lot of our ancestors did. Because some of them, as we talked about in our previous discussion, some of them had to close their mouth, and because there were some bad things. My dad tell me there was many times that he was the abuse, that verbal abuse that he was faced with, but he had to tight, close, kind of not say
Yeah,
anything, humbling himself.
bite the
And
bullet and keep rolling.
so
Well, mhm.
so these things were done, and so I've just made that analogy to say that these are the things that we're doing now, is that there are some sacrifices that we have to make sure that things are beneficial for future generations.
Okay. Now, there is a psychological process that human beings just naturally do. They'll wait to see if someone else is going to pick up and do
Right.
right. So they'll say, "What a shame," but then they'll wait to see if someone else is going to help, rather than them rolling up their sleeves to help.
Yes.
I think that self determination, what you're mentioning, and what so many others mention and talk about, and we've heard for decades as African Americans, self determination is super essential to where we're wanting to even survive and then being able to thrive and give back. I want to go back to where which economy do you develop? Do you develop the African American inner city economy, or do you develop your your economy where you are, whether you live in the inner city, whether you live in a suburb, wherever you are, right where you are, and
Well.
then be conscious
Mhm.
to to put businesses or uh, do business with businesses that are in the inner city African American community.
Right. And the answer to that is that when we look at it, we look at where our population is at. We have a lot of people that live, lot of people that live in the what we call the inner city. So I would say that the development definitely has to start there. But there's things that we definitely have to do to make that happen. And this is the it's a process. It's a lot of things that have to come in place. Um, one, um, it's just the mere fact of understanding the importance of spending money with each other. Okay,
Mhm.
and that stems from here's where I'm going with this. It stems from what I said earlier, where I was talking when I was talking in terms of a nation. I'm talking in terms of group interests, understanding, because when we talk about, a lot of times we talk, people talk about the Asians, talk about all these different groups, how they do these different things. Well, hello, that's the same thing that we need to be doing,
And
is that
can
group
do.
interest. And of course, and of course I understand that those dynamics of what stop us from doing those things. But the challenge is, this is the challenge, Sister Ann. The challenge is more so those who understand, or that or have been able to read and understand more about our history, and understand the all the things that we've been through.
Hmm.
I put the burden on them to do better, because I will tell you, there are many of us that have read a lot of Dr. Claude Anderson books and you name it, but we're still are not actually living by those principles that's in the book, in those
Okay, and
books.
that's kind of like the word of God too. If you're a believer, we have the word of God, the Bible as our guide, and the struggle becomes uh, making sure that you die to self and then surrender to the word of God. And I've also pointed out the concepts that of of improvement and making this group, our group as African Americans, better and productive. Self, the nation within a nation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Better is that they're really biblical principles anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So what these men as secular writers have done, it's it could be considered just common sense, but really it's the sense and the wisdom that the Bible has given. So others have taken the word of God and been blessed by it. The Jews, of course, take their teachings and learnings and they become super productive, right? And if you want to oppress, you can go in the Word of God and find out how to oppress somebody by what they experienced in oppression, right? And do
Right.
that. So even the oppressor has gone to the Word of God and
Mm-hmm.
found out, well, how can I oppress these people? Slavery's in the Bible for a reason, right? So,
Right. Sister Ann, I want to go back to something you talked about.
sure.
It was the fact that you had made mention of how um, people follow each other. You know that like psychology. You
Mm-hmm.
made mention of that, and what I was alluding to earlier is the ones that I was alluding to the fact of the people that are knowledgeable that they
Mm-hmm.
should
Yeah.
be
Should be
spending
doing
money
better.
with black owned business, but they
Mm-hmm.
somehow they're not doing it. Well, the others, there's other people looking at that. Oh, you talk about this, but you're not doing it.
Not
You're not
doing it.
setting the examples.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to become better examples.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have better when you're consistent, because here's the thing. I mentioned self-hatred. So some people are looking for excuses not to do it, not to patronize black-owned businesses. And one of the things that I was reading the other night in the book The Black Tax, it was the fact that Dr. Sean Rochester, he talked about how uh, we have this thing of generalizing businesses because we may have a bad experience at one business, and then
Mm-hmm.
so that experience then gets extrapolated to all black businesses.
Yeah.
And I know this personally, being in business, this is the thing that what I try to do is to make sure if I do have a situation with a customer, I want to make sure that they don't leave there without knowing that uh, uh, this issue gets gets resolved. And I'm gonna give you a case in point. I think I shared this with you before, where it was the where there was someone while I was vending somewhere, someone asked me the cost of a book,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had to basically talk about that this emotion books and products is like any other business. You don't go into Walmart and any other businesses and ask them how much they paid for so you could negotiate a price.
Right.
So I'm alluding to that because this is the thing that has to happen, is because somehow people, what they do when they go to some of the black owned businesses, they're looking for an excuse not
Mm.
to buy, because here's the thing, Stan. There's been many people there's been situations where people come in the bookstore and this is what they'll do. I'm gonna give you an example. I'll make they'll come in and they say, "Oh, if you had that book,
Mm,
I would, I'd have, I would have bought that. I'd have bought, I'd have purchased that book." And I'd say, "Well, it's coming in next week." "Oh, well, I'm not in a hurry." Then I say, "Wait a minute now. If it was, you see,
right.
so what I have to do, I don't want to put them on the, point it
Put them
out to
on
them, but
blast.
yeah, but I let them tell them themselves,
Yeah.
and this is the
Yeah.
type of stuff that you have with dealing with some of our people that's purchasing products with us,
Hmm.
or the situation where there was one time when someone made this huge order of books for this library, and then I was never notified that I was actually competing with a white-owned business. I was told that they were going
Oh,
to
they
purchase it.
wanted a quotes, but they really wanted a quote, but then they said that they were going to purchase it.
They were just the way it was done. It was like, we're purchasing it with you because you're a black-owned business. So I
Hmm.
gave them a 25% discount on the
Hmm.
books, and then I waited, and then when I called weeks later, then I found out that they had purchased it elsewhere. And I said,
Hmm.
"Well, why you come back to me to see if I could have, you know, beat that quote?"
Look, 25 percent is still pretty. That's very good. I was hearing 15. I'm like, okay, I'll give you 15%. But again, here we go. I understand quotes, but if they really wanted to do business with a black owned business, they would. I'm just gonna say. They've spent way more money. People have spent more money with European American or other owned business, other nationalities of businesses, and pay what they ask for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same situation and scenario that they want to come and haggle with African American owned businesses. They want to say, okay, well, I can get it or whatever. And I understand getting it as a fair price, but then remember those libraries, they get big donations.
Right.
Libraries also get funded local tax money and everything. So when it comes to certain kick, certain things that income that a library gets, they get big money already. And for
Well,
them to have purchased the book,
well,
then they should have
let me say
purchased
this.
it with the
Well, let me say this
decision.
with that story. That I didn't
Hmm.
say this part too to the story
Hmm.
is that this particular person had worked at another library and had made a purchase with with the bookstore,
Hmm.
and the percentage at that time, now watch this, was only, because I was just getting started, 15%.
Yeah, see,
Anything
I
that
heard 15%, dude. I'm like,
15
look.
15% discount on it, because it was a purchase of maybe $500 worth of books. So
Hmm.
15%. So this order that was about $5,000 worth, $5,000, 25%
Hmm.
that I was, and if you think about it, most people got to understand the profit margins of books are only about 40 to 50%.
I
So
believe
I'm
it.
digging, I'm digging
Hmm.
into all because, but I'm doing it because I like the volume. You still want
Yeah,
to make
the
certain that the
volume, get
volume.
that sell a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Uh, so, part of it when we're talking about Black economic development, self determination, I think that what I had shared, it's like, okay, I want to support my African American community, but I don't live there. Okay. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to support the community because African Americans do live there. My group of people do live there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we'll support it if there are businesses there, or
Mm-hmm.
support it by maybe even doing events there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that others can see us
Yes.
and participate where people don't have to drive way somewhere else. So that's another opportunity. But then to
Yes.
take and develop where I am. So African Americans to develop where they are.
Hmm.
One of the issues too, what we were talking about self-determination is education. Now, that's boom, hands down. That's something that we do,
Hmm.
building curriculum for education. We have volunteer tutoring program, support for nonprofit organizations. We've done that. And one of the things that you can do on ASBNC training and consulting is that you can go out and just give a $5 donation. Now, it's
Hmm.
not tax deductible. If you're going to go out and say, for instance, you want to do business with an African American community business, then go out and just give $5. And with that $5, that goes towards the education and the tutoring sessions for nonprofit organizations. Like we partner with other nonprofit organizations. We
And could you
teach mhm,
give me the name again?
ASBNC training and consulting.
Okay.
That's the website for the company that I work with.
Okay. So
Uh,
let me write this down. Hold on.
mhm.
A.
A as in apple, S
Uh
as
huh.
in Sam, B as in boy, N as in Nancy, C as in cat.
Hmm.
And I can take us right to the scholarship fund page here. I'll share that. And, that scholarship, I mean, even if you don't want to purchase a class, then that can be a way to support an African American owned business by
Well,
going out and supporting by going out and donating $5 to the scholarship fund. And we do tutor in learning support for grades K through 12. So it doesn't matter what the age is, but we do like to focus on STEM, science,
right.
technology, English, and, math. We do like to
Hmm.
do that, engineering and math. But also, what we found in our community is the reading that's a big issue for the
Hmm.
school districts that are the main school district.
Hmm.
When I worked with them on another project, it's like, look, the children are in third grade and they can't read. They don't even know their ABCs.
Right.
And there's more that don't know their ABCs by the third grade than do know based on
Well,
the percentages that I
and
that I
that
saw.
brings, and what you're saying, that brings another point, and that's the making sure, um, that's the other importance of having black owned businesses, because if you looked at the my website, if you looked at the groups that we support over years, you would
Hmm.
see that, and we could see that that's been one of the things, is that black businesses have to, well, I say, have to be socially responsible, and the way of doing that is to support certain programs that you see, because that in itself, I guess, let's go to, yeah, I think it's that one where it say about us. I think that's under that tab there. Where is it, that one, or maybe no, it's not there. It's go back up. It's,
Education.
it must be on the home page.
Okay.
Back to the home page and scroll down. Where is that? Okay, no, not there. Okay. Oh,
These are
scroll. Yeah,
books here.
yeah, that's what it is. It's further. Keep on going. I think it's, yeah. There we go. There we go. So look at that where it says. So these are the groups. You see where it says the Brown Park Baseball Association,
Hmm.
uh, South Louisiana Elite AAU program. Dr. Martin Luther King uh, committee. You know. We see the co-sponsor youth field trips with KJCB. KJCB was a local radio station. It's not in existence right now, but we used to do field trips. We used to do these what they call cultural field trips, and one in particular, we did one what we call to the Mississippi Delta, where we brought 100 kids to learn about. We took them out to Money, Mississippi, where Emmett Till was killed, because the Emmett Till,
Mm-hmm.
there's a museum out there. We took them out there. We took them to the house of Medgar Evers in
Mm-hmm.
Jackson, Mississippi. So we did these. We would do these. We call these cultural trips to kind of get them to understand the history and so forth. So we did that. Then we had a youth. We used to had a trying to bring that back. The youth book and chess club. Trying to bring that
Mm-hmm.
program back.
Well,
But
stay in touch. We'll work together on that because there's
mhm,
some tutoring opportunities that we're going to kind of open up a little bit more than just what we're doing. So yeah, that book club, youth book club, the chess club. Yeah, let
tutoring
me know.
programs. We had tutoring programs. We did
Yeah, I see.
then our various cultural events that we had, Kwanzaa, and then you could saw the our uh, just participating as a vendor in different festivals, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times when people are putting on festivals, they need support. So being a vendor, you're supporting. So that's another thing that could be helpful that you were talking about earlier, as
Mm-hmm.
far as like if organization is hosting an event in what some people call the inner city. If they were hosting an event, then you come out and you set up as a vendor that supports that organization. So these are things that can be done where you
For
can do.
sure. For sure. Yeah, and of course your great books, the great book resources out here. I see. I have to still stay focused on the ones that I purchased already. I like to
Mhm.
glean from my books. I mean, I really like to get in there and check them out, and learn from them, and then move on to the next one. So, but I see a lot of juicy ones out there that I would like to get hold to too. So keep keep that in mind. He's got great books out there, guys. You go out there to the Umoja bookstore.net, and you'll see all kinds of wonderful African American books by African American authors, and great information there. The Miseducation of the Negro is an oldie but goodie by Carter G. Woodson. I think that if everyone started there, and it's so
Yes.
reasonably priced, you can really get a good understanding, because it's very relevant even to what we're dealing with still today.
A
Because
book that
like
was written in the 30s still relevant. So
mhm,
that's something.
yeah, still relevant. So, part of what we're discussing now is what can we do? But we agree that there's got to be. It's hard. You got to roll up your sleeves. Hmm.
Yes, you have to roll up your sleeves, and I think that some of the things is getting involved in organizations that have goals, things that they're trying to do. And one of the things, even with our organizations that are doing these things, we have to make sure that our organizations are operating in a cordial manner. What I mean by that is like when you look in a city, it shouldn't be where you're competing against each other. You
Yes.
know, it's not a competition that we're doing. It's like your organization, if you do certain things, people are going to gravitate to it. You don't have to undermine or say anything negative about our
Right.
organization just want to join your organization. So we have to make sure we're not doing that, because I see that too often, even in the area where I live in Lafayette, Louisiana. I see that happening too much, and they say negative things, and I say, like, you know how many people that we have in this area. We your your particular organization cannot even meet the needs of all the people that live in our area.
Right.
So I
Right.
have multiple organizations doing different things to help meet the needs of our people. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
so we
Yes.
can
So,
definitely duplicate different programs. You know, because I'm gonna say this because when I started a tutoring program years ago, it's like I told someone they came approach me. I told them please do because
mhm.
I can only take so many. You know, they were saying I
Better
don't want to.
believe it.
This is how they approach me. I don't want to seem like how we saying like uh what term I want to say um biting. You know how we say biting on you or anything. How people say that.
Backbiting. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, but copying off of you.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But I was saying like, no, we need that. So feel free. In fact, I'll tell you some of the things that we've done to get it. We had the way it was done. We networked with a lot of fraternities and sororities and got the word out. In fact, we had the certain we had some fraternities and sororities that actually provided notebooks and pencils and things of that nature. So,
Mhm.
so, so we made sure that we sent out letters to them, and we were very, we made sure that we got the word that we're doing this.
Yes.
And
Cool.
I share those things that I share those things with them, and keep in mind these programs I'm talking about. This is before Facebook and all these things that we have right now, social media. So we had to do. We was doing it the old school way, where you had
Mhm.
flyers. You put flyers in people's hands. You sent things through the mail.
Mhm.
So you know.
Well, they're still going to, you'll still, part of the process that we use too in working to get information out to the tutoring program, the nonprofit that works to get our information out. You still do send out some mail, as far as hard
Mhm.
copies, because really the technology of a tablet is cool, but there's nothing like pen and paper,
Right.
where a young person can take, and of course they may have crayons. We'll send out packages. We actually drop off donate packages that have resources that a parent can use to work with their child, homework. And sometimes it's about the incentive to say, okay, well, someone else understands my burden, so that kind of helps them along to give them the strength to say, yeah, okay, well, I'm tired, but I'm going to help my young person here with their
Hmm.
homework. And of course, with the online processes, the tutoring is even there too. So, I have tablets and things that I use to write with, so there's technologies that I use and everything that can be used too. I think one of the biggest issues that we have when it comes to getting information or working with young people is the data part of it. Because yeah, you'll have the technology, you can drop off a care package with, or send out a care package with some writing material and information that they'll study. But then, too, the online process, having a young person, a child. Now, I think that what's happened is since COVID, that the education system has brought a lot of students online. Well, you're online all day. Do you really want to continue to be online? So or do you have the resources or the data to be online? So that the education system will send home a data pack or whatever. And then two, what about if you don't have a data pack? What can you do? So we're really working to kind of come up with some creative ways and getting the information to the child where they can get on the bridge. We call them bridges. That's what we called them back in the day. Get
Right.
on the bridge so that they can get some homework tutor support, the family, let it be a family orient. Well, she might be cooking dinner, but let the young person get on there, and maybe it's just her mobile phone that she has unlimited data on. See, so some of that's been some of the challenges. Is there enough data? Is there a technology that is available for the young person to get on and be able to study? So the that's some of what the donations are all about. The fun and learning, the scholarship fund, that's what funds that part of it as well. So, we're still developing and growing what we're wanting to do with nonprofits, but in talking about that education, I think that that's something that is super important to continue the education, but there's been miseducation. So to
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge that there's been
Mm-hmm.
such grave miseducation,
Mm-hmm.
even to the point to where the children are being passed to grade by grade and still do
Mm-hmm.
not know the
Mm-hmm.
basics. So if we can just share to get those basics out, that's what our goal is.
And that's a pretty interesting point as being passed on, because we have to recognize as a community that that should not happen,
Mhm.
because we have to, and that goes back to where we're talking about when we see ourselves as a nation. A
Mhm.
nation has to be able to what? Feed, clothe, shelter, and
Mm.
provide security for itself, right? So we have to
Mm.
have these different these basic necessities. So if you don't have don't have knowledgeable, don't have
Mhm.
that level of education, how can that person uh, be in a what I call do anything productive for us?
Mhm.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a challenge. So we have to make sure that we are cognizant of that, and making sure that we don't allow these things to persist.
Yeah, well, I'll network with you. I'm really looking to network, brother Uka, and we'll share with you what we are doing, and hopefully you can help us get maybe people to participate. Get the word out that I think that's another part of the issue. There's organizations doing things, but do people know about it? Even on the social
Ah,
media, do people
yeah,
really know about it? And then once
right.
they know about it, are they able to work their schedules to where they can participate, or are they able to, even mentally be able, and I say mentally, because it's a strain to work and raise children, and I've been there, but are they able to, even, or be willing to sacrifice? Maybe it's about giving the $10 a week so that your child can get in on some really cool tutoring opportunities, because tutoring is super expensive. I don't care what company you go to; it's very expensive to do. So that's one
but
of the
but
reasons why.
but Sister Ann, I want to comment on that point there. That sacrifice that you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
that small sacrifice that you may have to make, that is very essential, because here's the challenge. When I ran the program, we were doing it program with no cost, free of
Mm-hmm.
charge. And one of the things that someone brought to my attention is that when people are not when something is free,
Mm-hmm.
then it's what we would see. We see see where our attendance was sporadic. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't have any skin in this game. I don't have any skin
Right.
in it, so I don't have. Why should I attend?
Mm-hmm.
So what this person brought to me, say like you should charge something. I mean,
Yes.
it could be a small amount, but you got to.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. Everything can't be absolutely free.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And even the
but go
charge,
ahead.
a small fee that we're looking to do, it won't cover everything, and that's the point. Even for the donations, the fun and learning contribution, and things like that, because we're looking at, like I said, the technology end of it. then to just to make sure that people are available and to continue on with it. So even with that small donation, it still is going to be a challenge, and it is a challenge. But we're just kind of making sure, like you said, that people can have some buy-in, and be willing to sacrifice. What is, I mean, you're going to go nowadays. Have you been to the fast food restaurants, Brother Uuka?
Right.
Oh my goodness. They're saying, okay, mostly minority young people uh,
Hmm.
working at these restaurants. Okay, you want to raise here, then we're going to have to raise the prices at so that we can pay, since the minimum wage has gone up.
Hmm.
And so you're going through fast food and you're dropping 20, $25. And
Hmm.
how can she really do that? She's going, can she really afford to do that? So it's really something else. A lot of what is happening when it comes to even the wage, the increase in wage, and that's a good thing. I would say, but for people that do want to go and support the fast foods, it might be cheaper just to take that money, and go to
Hmm.
the store and then make your tacos. So for $25, you probably folks can feed the whole
Right.
family. A
Right.
taco meal and some
Hmm.
chips for $10, family of four. So, and
Hmm.
then take the other
And,
10
and and you see, that's the
and
thing
feed the
about it.
mind of your child.
And that's the thing about it. And that's the thing about it is sacrifices.
Yes.
So the sacrifice would be taking the time to prepare that meal.
Hmm.
Um, and I tell you what, I'm gonna tell you this on a personal level. I know COVID has been helpful in my household because we're cooking more. you know,
That's good. That's
you know,
good.
and so as a result of that, we saving money doing so.
Hmm.
You save a
And
lot.
feeling
People don't
better.
really understand how much money you save. So
Hmm.
when you're saving that money by preparing your own meals, then you could support different programs and so forth.
Hmm.
About.
For sure, for sure. Brother Uuka, we haven't even gotten into, I wanted to bounce off of you. We were been talking about getting that PhD,
Okay,
huh? That power, that free PhD. I talked about that
right.
last week.
Purchase how higher in deposit.
Purchase
Yes.
higher and deposit black. But
Yeah.
hey brother, I said, look, we're going to delegate, designate, focus some time for you to come on, and we can share what has been happening, what's going on, and maybe even a progress report,
Hmm.
and to encourage the community to come together and do better. So please come back. Please come back.
So yeah, next time we'll definitely get into. Make sure we start off with talking about the PhD.
Okay,
You.
PhD and
Mhm.
soul. That's
Yes.
another one.
Hmm.
Wow. So, and of course, getting those updates on what it is that you're doing as
Hmm.
being a part of the Black Economic Development Commission. I
Hmm.
commend you for continuing on with that. Of course, in Cobra, a lot of what's going on. And I understand when it comes to events because things have kind of shut down. But, I think they're kind of opening back up, my brother, huh?
Yeah,
They're out
it's
there with. The sporting events are on point,
oh
huh? 70 some
yeah,
thousands,
yeah.
huh?
They full fledged.
COVID hasn't stopped the
Mhm.
football games, the NFLs, and
Mhm.
come on now.
Right.
So look, well, I'm not going into that right now, but
Hmm.
here, don't shut down the good, so
Right.
that they're directing the mindset of what profits them.
Hmm.
Mhm. The COVID it's bad if you're trying to go to church. It's bad COVID if you're trying to get together to do better, come together on an event for lifting up your nation, your group, edify, lifting up people's minds so that they can do bad. Oh, that's bad. Then, oh, but come on over here and cheer
Right.
for us because we're chasing a pigskin.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
No way.
Mhm.
Don't be duped. Don't fall for the
Mhm.
okie doke, guys. If they're
Yes.
gonna open it up, come on, let's participate. Let's
Mhm.
participate in what's going to uh us uplift us lifting us.
Yes.
Go out there to usliftingus.com, I believe.
Yes. Correct.
Yes, and check them out and see what they're doing. Become, maybe it could be something that you could become a member of. Don't
Mhm.
forget to go out there on the site emojibookstore.net and check out the great resources out there that Brother Uuka has. And like reasonably priced. If you don't do anything, but start out with that book, Miseducation of the Negro, I would suggest going out and grabbing that. He has that available. You can put that in your cart and grab. Don't forget to go out and donate just $5 to the Fun and Learning Project, the scholarship fund that helps to give to nonprofit organizations. It's a
Well,
mobile tutor project.
I'm on record that I will be making a donation.
Okay. And go out there and do that. That will every little bit helps. And that's why we don't try to go. You look, if you don't see a class that you want, if you don't have any learning things that you want to do, you can definitely go out there and give so that another young person can do some learning. Yeah, thank you, Brother Ugo. We appreciate it. ASBNC.com. So, yeah, there's lots that we can do to continue to move on and see what we can do to make things better. Bring up that self determination, we're talking about. Huh? Super. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be part of it.
Thank you, sir. And thank you again for joining. Uh, just continue on to do and be your best. Do and be your best. And all of these great ideas and solutions that we read and have, really they just came from the good book. Really, the whole concept, all the concepts, believe it or not. So you don't want to read any other book. Go ahead and read the good book, and that would be your best bet as far as a good start as well. And I always say, if the Lord says the same, we'll see you next time.
Justice now. Justice now.
Justice now.